We're back. We're looking at trying to get Zool to slide against solid objects. So we're going to take a look at Object Zool Air specifically in getting him to slide against solid objects. So let's open that up and take a look at Object Zool Air. Right now, when there's a collision event with object solid, let's see what happens. We move to our previous position, and then we move 1 pixel at a time until we're in contact with it. We set the speed to 0, which is kind of drastic. And then we check to see if we're on the ground, and if we're on the ground, then we switch to Object Zool Land. So that's all fine, but we want to make it look a little bit nicer. So what we're going to do is to see if there's an object solid at just below our feet, or I think, yeah, we're trying to see if there's an object solid in the Y location. So I suppose this would be if we're bumping our head, but we'll check that in a second. Let me just see what that looks like. All right, so where we need to include this code is right here. I think that's our entry point there. So we'll add this code here. And so what we're saying here is if this time we'll say place meeting, and here we're going to say spell it right. The code here is kind of strange. We're going to say, for X, we'll just say X. But for Y, what we're going to say is Y previous plus V speed, which is the vertical speed. And then the object we're looking for is object solid. So this would be all the solid things in the game. Close that off. And if that's the case, then what we want to do is we want to set the vertical speed to 0. So we would say then, V speed is our vertical speed, so we'd say V speed equals 0. That's the true part. But then for the false part, if the conditional expression comes out to be false, then what we want to do is we want to set Y equal to Y previous plus V speed. So just setting it to its previous location. Now, this is the location where it would have been had something not gotten in the way. And then, so we go there. All right, so we're going to do this again then for the X variable as well. So I'm just going to copy all this code, all that there, plus that, paste it here. And then what we want to do is, here we say X previous plus H speed, and here it's just Y. So now we're checking horizontally. And then this would be H speed. And then the change down here, we can get it to appear somehow. Not too enamored with this interface. Trying to get it to do what you want is challenging. Here then we would say x equals x previous plus h speed. And then now we should be able to, or at least start sliding against solid objects. Let's try it. I'm going to save the game here and give it a try and see what the change of behavior is. Alright, so we're still not ready. It looks like we get stuck when we're trying to land. So we'll take a look at that. Alright, so our problem is this line of code here. We don't want to stop our speed. We're trying to control it individually for both vertical and H speed. And this is actually shutting it off completely, so none of this will actually make any difference, I don't think. Because speed, once you set speed to 0, the horizontal speed becomes 0 and the vertical speed becomes 0. So if we take that out, then and run it, cross my fingers, and we'll see if we get what we need. We land. There we go. Okay. So now we can run around. What's my expectations here? I can jump. Notice now when I hit the wall, I'm not just falling instantly. I'm sliding up the wall if I jump into it. So we're able to retain our vertical speed and we don't get just stuck and start falling instantly. So that's what that code that we just added did. Now it'd be nice if we could get Zool to kind of drift over the top of the wall so that we could land on top of the platform. And so just temporarily, I think this is a temporary change. We're going to change this instead of so we're just going to leave H speed set to H speed. Now this is just a temporary change. We're going to replace this later. H speed. Okay, and see what the difference there is. I'm saving it and running it. All right, so here's Zool, and if we just jump into the top of the wall, if I run and just catch the top of the wall, see how I hit the top, but I also continue to move horizontally. That allows me to jump up to the top when I hit the wall. Now we're going to fix this here in a second so that it's a little bit even nicer. But right now that allows us to jump up when we happen to hit the top of the wall. Let's see if I can get on that one. I'm dead. Alright, so we're going to have to create a few more constants here. And what we're going to, the reason why we need these constants is we're going to create a mechanic in the game where Zool is allowed to drift right and left based on our keyboard, our key presses. Now, I recognize this just violates the laws of physics, because once you jump, you're pretty much committed to your parabolic arc, but there's not much you can do to change that. However, in video game, we don't have to follow laws of physics, so we're going to change it a little bit. So here's our constant so far, and we're going to add a few more. We're going to create one called max drift speed, and that we're going to set to 8. So we'll say macro max drift speed, and we'll set that to 8. And it warns us that we're not using it yet. Of course we're not, because we just created it. Now we're going to go back to that speed control now that we have this constant. And that's in object Zool air, collision with object solid, yeah, here. So instead of that, then we're going to say this. We're going to say a median. Oops. Median between negative max drift speed, and then I think the center one is just H speed, and then positive max drift speed. So that'll keep us in that range. And we've done something similar to that when we were running around. So now that we have these new this new max drift speed, we can use that by adding some key presses to the object Zool air object. So we're going to add that here. This will be a key down event for left. Adding that. And what are we adding? Let's just execute some code here. I'm kind of dropping it into GML all the time, but let's see if we can do this without GML. So basically, we're going to add we're going to set the variable. And what's the variable we're going to set? This time it's going to be facing, and we'll set it equal to face left. Okay, because we just hit the left key, so we want it to go left. And then we want to check our speed. So we do a test variable, and this is H speed, and we want to see if it's larger than negative max drift speed, because we're going to the left. And if it is, then we know that we can actually increase the speed a little bit. So we'll do another set variable, and we'll say H speed. And we're going to add -1 to it and make it relative. And that'll keep Zool from not going too fast when we're drifting right and left. We're going to have to do something similar with right, so I'm going to just copy all this code if there's a way to select it all. I'm just going to copy that, and then we'll add a key down right event. Key down right. And here to didn't get all our things there. I will set facing to face right. And then we do our test variable again. Put that there. And we'll put this over there. Variable we're testing is H speed. And we want to see if it's smaller than, this time, less than max drift speed. And if it is, then we want to add 1 to the H speed, because we can go faster. That's about it on that. Okay, we try the game now, and we jump. And what we're seeing is we can now, by using the arrow keys in the air, we can affect the direction that Zool is moving. But notice if we jump, oops, just fell off. Notice if we jump, Okay, so I've gone in, did this off camera, I guess, is I've gone in and added a little bit to the top of this variable setting. Here we're in the key down left, and I've added a couple things beforehand. First, I'm trying to figure out if we're moving to the right when we hit the left key and we're in midair. What we'd really like to do is just stop going right and instantly start going left, or at least start accelerating to the left. So we check to see if we are going to the right, and if we are, we just stop it from going right immediately. We do the same thing in key down right. I add this test right at the start. This time I'm checking to see if the h speed is less than 0, and if it is, then that means we're moving left, and I want to start moving right. So I'm going to speed that process up and just set h speed to 0. So trying this now, let's see what that does. So here's our game, and I jump. As soon as I hit the left key, you can see I'm moving in the other direction. If I do it going the right way, or going to the left and then changing my direction to go right, you see it's almost instantaneous. I start moving in that new direction. Now we're giving the user even more control of this little character, which is a good thing. So now we have a Zool that can jump around, and we can control Zool while he's in the air a little bit. Gives us better control. We can slide up at the walls. We're not falling instantly. See if I can actually get up there. Yep, I can. Okay, so now I have more control. Change directions in midair, giving the user a little bit more control. And now we have a character that's starting to look really good. And well, I guess we'll leave it there.